Shalom, my name is Yehoshua, Yehoshua Yaakov from Jerusalem. I'm a didactic scientist and the author of Humanomics, which is the post-collapse of the local reality global's East-West convergence model. Implicitly, that says that the East and West systems are either collapsed or imploding. We're referring specifically to communism, capitalism, etc. It's to be noted that the collapse of the local reality has as well caused a fundamental perturbation structurally and fundamentally to the the three major monotheistic religions. So let's put a context. But before we proceed, I want to connect this to the previous video because this is commenting upon the moral necessity of atheism by Christopher Hitchens. And in the previous video of comment, I asked two questions. I said it's nice to have a debating society, but let's get to some more fundamental questions, because your 8 videos about the moral necessity that led to I rest my case, I've proven it implicitly and explicitly, seems to have avoided just a few little things, specifically creation ex nihilo, creation ex materia, or creation ex deo. And take your choice. The causal argument brings us to uncaused cause, quote unquote, or unmoved mover. Those are not addressed. And take your choice again, in esse, in theory, or the argument for contingency. I don't know where your persuasions are, but you think, or you seem to think, Hitch, that everybody is childlike and naive, and that they're supposed to be enamored at all of the negative framework, the gloom and doom that you're spinning that says, oh, here are the proofs, folks. We just have to, all of us, become atheists, you know. And now I want to go to another question. Where is the first cause arguments? Do you negate the first cause arguments? Okay, specifically the cosmological argument does not and never has, and I'm talking about the greatest minds, and there have been thousands of equally great minds from Plato and Aristotle and the Kantian anomalies. Okay, you haven't spoken once to the first cause, or I would hasten to remind you of the fact that the greatest thinkers in the history of men and mankind, many of them secular, I might add, they said their conclusions about the first cause could prove absolutely nothing about the first cause, about God, except they all agree, Hitch, that such was the case, that the first cause exists. Okay, now this cause is known as causa sui, and that's cause of itself. And your atheism suggests that the first cause is the first event, but you don't say that. But you do talk about the Big Bang, which would therefore imply that that's your first event is the equal of first cause. Now, and you go on and you idolize Spinoza, Becker, and Freud and others. And some of their dialogue, you would confirm, I'm sure, to be the first, that objects can assign themselves. The immortality vessel is the inference here, where something could create a meaning or continue it beyond its own life. Now, are you in these contexts of philosophic dialogic, are you an object, Chris, to yourself, or are you a subject? And if so, what does that mean? And how is that subject got an identity, and how is that identity resolved? Obviously, I'm asking your cosmology. What is your cosmology? You're all over the place epistemologically, and you seem to take no difficulty whatever in using commonly extremes, epistemological extremes of relativism. I'm referring to the postmodern era of those extremes. Now, having said all of this seems to be going nowhere, but in fact, what I'm really asking is, let us return to the last video. The questions were, what creates life and sustainable life systems? Sustainable, let's say it again. What creates life and sustainable human development life systems, and what creates wealth? Can you answer those? Well, you can't, and you didn't know, but so you can't know everything. In fact, the truth be known, Christopher, you have about 1/millionth by the heuristic of math that was run on the macros here. You have about 1/millionth of 1% contact with the knowledge that's out there epistemologically. So I think you should be a little bit humble, and before you start impressing people with your spins about atheism and how incredibly rational is the logic, I think you better deal with these first causes, and you better have something to say that's coherent, intelligible, and consistent with it. Which brings me, by the way, to your question, where if I can find it here, where you said you have to show me, where was it? Oh yes, here it is. You have to show me, oh yes, here it is. You have to name me an ethical statement that was made or a moral action that was performed by a religious person in the name of faith that could not have been made, or an action uttered or a statement made by a person of no faith. That's me. You're the one of no faith. I'm the one of faith. And so I said, quote, truth is the information that never changes, parenthetically, in finality, changing, parenthetically, in intentionality. Close parens, full stop, end quote. Now that happens to be the central organizer, the first principle of logic in the construct of the postmodern model. Where are we going? We're in the postmodern era. We've had the collapse of the local era. The central organizing principles, the new cognitive behavioral science, received the its author, and that's the central. That answer I gave happens to be the central organizing principle of the logic of the postmodern model of humanomics, and you don't know that. And I thought to bring this and a few other things forward so that people get an idea of your extreme intellectual limitations, regardless of how brilliantly you articulate, and your command of speech and theater and the like, when you're not sipping on your scotch or your gin. But frankly, Hitch, I'm not that impressed. And until you can get to the first causes and to the underlying logics and communicate something that has some relative historical epistemologic coherent flow of consistency with the logics of the great minds and scholars of the centuries past, I can't be very impressed with your very shallow spins about all of these people that you read, and how this is just prima facie obvious that there is implicitly an absolute necessity for atheism. Look, secular humanism commonly gets derailed or goes to the last rung and jumps off the top of the ladder into the pool with no water, and that's a common atheist enterprise and exercise. But the desire to lead others to this is not so appealing. So let's get to some really deep waters, and let's hear some answers that are specific. And I repeat, humanomics is the postmodern central organizing principle of the ascent of man and mankind. It's comprised of two paradigms: the new cognitive behavioral science central organizing principle, receive and give, and the new economic paradigm, the integration of labor. Both answer the questions: what creates wealth, and what creates sustainable human development, what creates life and life system, in sustainable human development. That said, thank you for listening. I'm Yehoshua Yaakov. Shalom.